Hello guys, I am Frank Satcher, your host, and welcome to this introduction episode for my brand new podcast, Frame by Frame. Now, most of you probably are like, Frank, did you just start a podcast? What is it about and why did you start it? Well, thanks for asking, guy with a really bad British accent. Well, basically I decided to start this podcast because after watching the FA radio podcast, Stone and Blake Soul / Travis and Mike used to do, I realized that to me podcasts are one of the most entertaining things there are out there, so I said why not start one. So basically in this particular podcast I'm going to be talking about anything that is animation related and mostly making reference to Fluidanims.com. If you don't know what Fluidanims.com is, you might as well check the link below in the description so you can follow through with the things I say. Now, for this particular episode, I just wanted to explain to you lot what I have planned for the podcast so far. So one of those things, and pretty much the only thing, is dividing the whole podcast into segments. Like around 6 segments, I think. So the first one is news and updates, which is pretty straightforward. And basically in this segment, I'm going to be talking about anything that is new in Fluidanims.com, what has been going on, and everything that could be of any interest. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that section. Then we have spotlights. Now for spotlights, what I'd like to do is actually pick out some tests in Fluidanims.com, or you actually could send me tests and I could actually like look at them and say, oh, look at this test of this guy because it's really cool. So yeah, I'm basically going to pick the tests and say what I like about them, why they're like good tests, and throw in some comments on how they could improve. But in general, just like give out a shout out to those animators who actually did put a lot of effort into their tests, and that's pretty much it. So the next segment is what's cooking, and for this one in particular I'm going to choose some of the projects that are being developed right now, for instance, let's say Shock More by Geo. We all know Shock More by Geo is coming up, and if you don't, you are quite behind from all of us. So yeah, I could say like, yeah, you guys should look at Shock More because Shock More is really cool and all that stuff. So you guys actually know what's going to be coming up real soon. So for the next one, we have Idea Center. And for this segment, basically what I wanted to do is like give my perspective on Fluidanims and say what could improve, throw some suggestions in there. Maybe you guys could even like send suggestions and I could read them and say what I think. Damn, that was failure. Basically say what I think about them based on my perspective. There we go. So that's it for Idea Center. Then we have quick tips, which is actually a quite cool segment, I think, because for this one you can actually ask me or anything you'd like to know about animation. Like, let's say for instance, how do I make my movement seem forceful? Yeah. So basically what I'm going to do is get those questions and answer them in the podcast, so you guys actually improve in your animations as you listen, which could be quite cool. And the first little segment that I might do every once in a while is get to know them. Now get to know them is going to be just interviews to people that might be of any interest to you, like famous animators and whatnot, so you guys can actually get to know them. That's why this segment is called like that. So yeah, another thing that I also thought that it's not really going to be a segment is having guests. Now what's the difference between having guests and having people who are going to be interviewed? Well, if you're interviewed, you're just going to be in that little segment, get to know them. If you're a guest, you could be anyone, and you are going to like give me company throughout the whole podcast. So not just a little segment, it's going to be for the whole podcast. So that way, it's not going to be like just me talking to the microphone the whole time. And this guest thing could happen like any time at all. I just got to figure out like tricks and pebbles on how to actually work it out properly so that the whole microphones sync together and all that stuff. But Well, that's all minor. I'm gonna get to that later. And well, I guess that's pretty much it for the plans and whatnot. So yeah, please leave comments on any segments you consider I should add. Feel free to send me animes for me to include in the spotlight section if you want, or ask questions for the quick tips segment. And if you feel like you want to, like if you really want to, you feel capable of making jingles, because I actually want like a little jingle at the beginning of the podcast and maybe for each segment. That would be really, really neat. And if you can actually make those little jingles, I would really appreciate it. And speaking of making things for me, I want to give a quick shout out to Hector Patterson, also known as Fresh in Fluidanims.com, because he was the one who made the presentation screen you're looking at as you listen to the podcast, which is really, really cool. So thank you, Hector. I really do appreciate that. So I guess that's all, guys. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.